All right, Reddit, buckle up. Got a story for you from the wonderful world of the military spouse life, specifically the thrilling pre-deployment phase. My name's Aubrey, and let's just say I'm not exactly a newbie at this rodeo. My husband's army hitting his second enlistment, and his unit is gearing up for a 6-month dance party overseas. You know what that means, mandatory fun time, or in this case the mandatory pre-deployment spouse meeting. It's supposed to be helpful, covering what to expect, dealing with stress, keeping the lights on, all that good stuff. And hey, for some people, especially the fresh spouses, it totally is. But here's the thing, my husband, let's call him John, wasn't going. Why? Because he was neck-deep in last-minute gear checks, making sure his guys were squared away, and generally doing the critical, actual work of getting ready to deploy. He's done this before, I've done this before, we know the drill. That meeting, not exactly vital for us, you know. Well, apparently, attendance was being tracked, and when John's name came up without me listed beside it, someone higher up took notice. I guess the chaplain who was leading the meeting, or maybe someone in the unit leadership mentioned it. Either way, it filtered down, and suddenly, John gets the word. His lieutenant is ordering him to ensure his wife attends the meeting. Now, this is where my blood started to boil a little, not because of the meeting itself, whatever. But because they were trying to order John, who's busting his butt getting ready to leave the country for half a year, to waste his time herding me to a briefing I didn't need, and frankly, they couldn't force me to attend anyway. I'm a civilian, they have zero authority over my schedule. John pushed back, of course. He explained that I was an experienced spouse, that the meeting wasn't mandatory for dependents by regulation, and that he had more important things to do than play chauffeur for a briefing we wouldn't benefit from. The lieutenant didn't like that, not one bit. Next thing I know, John gets called into the lieutenant's office. My heart sinks a little because I know what this is, pointless bureaucratic hassle piled onto an already stressful time. John messages me, sounding frustrated. The LT wants to know why you aren't coming to the meeting, says I have to bring you or there's gonna be a problem. Okay, now I'm properly pissed. They're leaning on my husband because I, a civilian, am not doing what they want, over a stupid meeting. Nope, not happening. So I straightened my shoulders, put on my best don't mess with me face, and walked straight over to the unit area. I found John outside the lieutenant's office, looking stressed and annoyed. He saw me coming and just gave me this look like, oh boy, here we go. I didn't even hesitate, I knocked firmly and walked in. The lieutenant was sitting at his desk, looking officious. John came in behind me, looking a bit bewildered but also maybe a tiny bit hopeful. Lieutenant, I said, keeping my voice level but firm, I understand there's an issue regarding my attendance at the spouse meeting. He looked at me, then at John. Yes, ma'am, attendance is required for all spouses. Private John Doe here was instructed to ensure you were present. With all due respect, Lieutenant, I cut in, not letting him finish. No, it's not. Attendance at these briefings for dependents is voluntary. I'm not subject to military regulations, and frankly, you don't have the authority to order me anywhere. My husband is currently focused on critical pre-deployment tasks, which is significantly more important than me sitting through a brief I've already attended multiple times during previous deployments. He puffed up a bit. It's important information for unit readiness. And my readiness as an experienced spouse is just fine, I countered. What's not fine is you pulling my husband away from getting ready to deploy and putting pressure on him over my civilian schedule. Lieutenant, I am fully aware of the chain of command, and I'm also aware of the proper channels for filing formal complaints regarding inappropriate command influence, especially when it involves a civilian dependent. If you continue to make this an issue for my husband, I will escalate this. I just stood there looking him dead in the eye. He sputtered a little, his face going red. He clearly hadn't expected me to know the rules or to push back so hard or to bring up the dreaded formal complaint word. The implication was clear. I knew the game, and I wasn't afraid to play it at a higher level if he didn't back down. After a tense silence that felt like an hour, he finally slumped a bit. All right, ma'am, he mumbled, waving a hand dismissively. Forget about it, just make sure you get the materials from someone. Will do, Lieutenant, I said, my voice losing none of its steel. Now, if you'll excuse us, my husband has work to do. I turned and walked out, John right behind me. As soon as we were out of earshot, he let out a breath he seemed to have been holding forever and grinned from ear to ear. Wow, Aubrey, you weren't messing around. It felt good. It was just a small thing in the grand scheme of deployment stress, but standing up to someone misusing their authority, especially when they were targeting my husband over something ridiculous, was a small victory I wasn't about to downplay. So yeah, sometimes you just gotta look 'em in the eye, know your rights, and let 'em know you're not the one to mess with, even if they think they're in charge of you, because they're not.
If you're still watching, you're clearly into this stuff. Go ahead and subscribe. I've got more stories just like these. Now, on to the last one.
All right, Reddit, gather round, 'cause Avery's got a doozy for ya. So, picture this. I'm 20 deep in the book section of Walmart, my happy place, you know? I was rocking my comfiest black leggings and a faded college logo t-shirt, basically invisible. Perfect for a quiet afternoon lost in paperbacks. Now the crucial bit, I'm deaf, completely, so I'm totally absorbed, probably tracing the spine of some new thriller, and I didn't hear a thing. But I felt it, a tap, not aggressive, just insistent on my shoulder. I turned, a little startled, and there's this woman, middle-aged, kind of a sour look already brewing on her face. She starts talking at me, lips flapping, but it's all just silence to me. My lip reading isn't great with strangers, especially when they're already agitated. So I did the usual, pointed to my ear, shook my head, tried to give her that polite sorry, can't hear smile. You'd think that's pretty universal, right? Apparently not for this lady. Her frown just deepened. Instead of, I dunno, trying to mime or find paper, she reached for my ears, like she was gonna personally inspect them for defects or something. Instinct just took over. I flinched back hard like I'd been zapped. Whoa, hey, I probably mouthed, hands up to ward her off. Personal space, lady. My heart started that uncomfortable thumping thing it does when I'm caught off guard. But she wasn't getting it, not even a little. Her face was twisting, getting redder, and then she started yelling. I couldn't hear the words, obviously, but the aggressive body language, the spittle flying, it was terrifying. And then she grabbed me by the shoulders like she was trying to shake some sense into me. Panic started to bubble up, hot and fast. I felt small, trapped. Just as I'm thinking, this is how I die in the book aisle, my friend Chloe rounded the corner, a bag of chips in her hand. Thank God. She took one look at the scene, me wide-eyed, this woman practically vibrating with rage, and her hands flew. What in the actual heck is going on? She signed, eyes blazing. I shook myself free from the woman's grip, stumbling back a step, and quickly signed back the gist of it. She won't leave me alone, thinks I work here, touched me. Before Chloe could even react, the woman shrieked, pointing a finger first at me, then at Chloe. Gang signs, they're flashing gang signs, security. My jaw just about hit the floor. What? I signed to Chloe, who looked equally dumbfounded. We're just shopping, lady, discussing the merits of the latest YA fantasy, not plotting a turf war. Her son, a kid who looked utterly mortified, shuffled up then. Mom, I got the sodas, can we go? But Mom was on a roll, still screaming about us being disrespectful hoodlums and bizarrely terrible employees. That's when a manager, looking harried but trying for calm, finally materialized. What seems to be the problem here? The woman launched into this whole tirade about how I was rude, ignored her, refused to help, and was clearly not doing my job. The manager listened, then looked at my very non-uniform attire and said flatly, "Ma'am, she doesn't work here." Oh, the eye roll she gave him. Of course she does, you're just covering for her. The sheer audacity. At this point, I was so over it. Adrenaline was wearing off, leaving me shaky and just wanting to disappear. Chloe grabbed my arm. Let's just go, she signed, and I nodded, relieved. We started to walk away, but this woman was still yelling after us, a stream of insults I could thankfully only see, not hear. It was mortifying, people were definitely staring. And then, as if she hadn't caused enough chaos, we heard a thud and a gasp. We glanced back just in time to see she'd actually pushed a young Walmart employee who tried to gently guide her away. That, apparently, was the final straw. Next thing you know, actual police officers were there and she was being cuffed. It felt like a scene from a really bad TV show. One of the officers came over and, through Chloe translating, asked if I wanted to press charges for assault, given the grabbing and all. Part of me, the angry, humiliated part, wanted to scream yes, but honestly I was just drained, exhausted. I just wanted it to be over. No, I signed, I just want to go home. Chloe looked like she vehemently disagreed, her hands gesturing emphatically, but she respected my decision. It took me ages to feel comfortable going back to that Walmart alone. Every shopping trip for months felt like I was walking on eggshells, bracing for another confrontation. And Chloe, bless her heart, dined out on that story for weeks, telling anyone who'd listen about crazy Walmart Karen and the gang sign debacle. Eventually, it did end up on some social media channel, which is why I figured I'd share the full, unadulterated version with you guys. So yeah, that was my brush with Walmart notoriety. A pretty wild ride, and I'm just glad it's in the rearview mirror. But hey, at least it makes for one heck of a story, right?
Lily, all of 12 years old, wasn't your average kid. While other preteens were glued to TikTok, Lily was usually found tinkering. She once MacGyvered the washing machine door shut with a bungee cord and an old ruler when the latch broke, and her dad, a pretty handy guy himself, had started calling her his chief operations officer of household fixes. So, when Mom and Dad announced a Saturday pilgrimage to Home Pro Warehouse, Lily surprised them by actually wanting to tag along. Her secret mission: scope out the plumbing aisle. She had a theory about rerouting the gray water from the upstairs shower to her mom's prize-winning petunias. The store was a cavernous beast, smelling faintly of sawdust and new plastic. While her parents got sidetracked by discounted smart thermostats, "But honey, do we really need to ask Alexa to change the temperature?" Mom was saying, Lily clad in her favorite bright blue t-shirt, coincidentally. The exact shade of the Home Pro employee uniform, and a Junior Fix-It Friend sticker she'd gotten at a science fair, made a beeline for aisle 14, plumbing and fixtures. She was in heaven, tracing the path of copper pipes on a display, mentally cataloging the different types of PVC connectors, when a sharp voice cut through her reverie. Excuse me, are you going to help me or just stand there dreaming?" Lily blinked, turning to see a woman with a tightly permed hairdo, a shopping cart already overflowing with impulse buys, and a face that looked like she'd been sucking on a lemon. "Let's call her Karen." Hi, Lily said, naturally helpful. "Are you looking for something?" Karen jabbed a perfectly manicured finger towards a bewildering array of sink faucets. "Yes, obviously. I need a new faucet for my guest bathroom, something elegant and not too expensive, and it has to match the brushed nickel handles I bought last week." "Which one is best?" Now Lily had helped her dad install their kitchen faucet. She knew a thing or two. "Well," she began, peering at the display, "this one here has a good ceramic cartridge. Dad says those last longer. And it looks pretty sturdy." She pointed to a mid-range, sleek model. Karen sniffed. "Sturdy? I want elegant. And what do you know about it anyway? You look about 10. "I'm 12, actually," Lily said, a little defensively, "and I help my dad with plumbing stuff at home all the time. This one," she tapped another, "is probably more your style, but the reviews say the finish tarnishes quickly." "HMPH, unhelpful," Karen muttered, then her eyes narrowed at Lily's blue shirt and sticker. "You know, for an employee, you're not very knowledgeable. Or well-dressed. Don't you people have a proper uniform?" Before Lily could formulate a reply like, I don't actually work here," the store's intercom crackled to life, a bored voice droning, "Attention Home Pro team, associate needed in plumbing, aisle 14. Customer requesting assistance in aisle 14, plumbing." Karen's eyes lit up with vindication. "See, they're even calling for more help because you're so useless. I want to speak to your manager." Lily's eyes widened. This was escalating fast. "But I don't have a manager here." Just then, a harried-looking man in a slightly nicer blue shirt, this one with an official Gary assistant manager name tag, hustled down the aisle. All right, what's the problem here?" he asked, his gaze flicking from Karen to Lily. He paused, looking at Lily. Brenda, is this the new trainee? Didn't get the memo she was starting today. Bit young, isn't she? He said, addressing Karen as if she were a colleague. Karen bristled. My name is not Brenda, and this child has been utterly unhelpful. I demand to know who hired her. Gary looked confused, then back at Lily. Kid, what's your employee ID? Lily felt her cheeks burn. I don't have one. I don't work here. What? Gary and Karen said in unison. Lilybug, there you are. It was her dad with mom in tow. We were wondering where you'd wandered off to. Oh, hello, he said, noticing the tense tableau. Everything okay? Gary's jaw was practically on the floor. Wait a minute, this is your daughter, he asked, pointing a bewildered finger at Lily. Yeah, that's our Lily, Mom said, smiling, then noticing the atmosphere. Is there a problem? Karen, meanwhile, looked like her brain was buffering. But the blue shirt, the sticker, she was, I thought. Lily finally found her voice. I was just looking at the pipes and she asked me about faucets. I tried to help. Another customer, a quiet man who'd been observing the whole exchange while trying to find a specific O-ring, chimed in. Actually, she gave me some pretty good advice on why my shower head was leaking. Saved me buying a whole new unit. Just needed a new washer, she said. He held up a tiny rubber ring. Gary rubbed his temples. So let me get this straight. You, he looked at Lily, don't work here, but you were giving plumbing advice. Lily nodded sheepishly. And you, he turned to Karen, thought she worked here because of her t-shirt. Karen huffed, her face turning a rather unbecoming shade of red. Well, it's the same color, and that sticker looked official. It's deliberately misleading. Dad chuckled. Oh, that's just her Junior Fix-It Friend award from the school science fair. She's always been good with this stuff. He winked at Lily, who was starting to see the funny side. Gary sighed, a small smile playing on his lips. Ma'am, he said to Karen, I can find you an actual employee to help with your faucet. As for you, young lady, he looked at Lily, you've got a knack for this. Come back in a few years, I might have a job for you. Karen, thoroughly deflated and embarrassed, mumbled something about finding the faucets herself and pushed her cart away with surprising speed. As Lily's parents finished their shopping, they did get the smart thermostat after all. Dad couldn't stop grinning. So, my little chief operations officer, accidentally moonlighting at Home Pro now, are we? Lily just shrugged, a proud little smile on her face. She hadn't meant to cause a scene, but helping that other guy save some money, that felt pretty good. And maybe, just maybe, she'd add unofficial plumbing consultant to her imaginary resume. This one fits right in with what you just saw.